this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Let us pray. Dear wise and loving Father, we pray your blessings upon this meeting and all those gathered here today. We thank you for the opportunity to care for this beautiful community we call Milton. Especially as so many in our community are celebrating graduations, we ask, Father, that you be with them as they move on to the next steps of their lives. Father, during this time together this evening, we pray for our elected officials, our city staff, and the community members that we serve. We pray that you give us all a sense of wisdom, fairness, and justice as we all work together to be good stewards of this great community in which you have entrusted us. It's in your most blessed name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chief. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Milton City Council for Monday, May 24th, 2021 to order. The city strongly recommends that you review tonight's agenda carefully, and if you wish to speak on any item on the agenda, then please bring your comment cards to the clerk as soon as possible. While the Milton rules allow speakers to turn in their comment card up until the clerk calls the agenda item, once the agenda item is called, no more comment cards can be accepted. So if the city clerk will please call roll and make the general announcements.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll be happy to call roll for the May 24th, 2021 regular meeting. I would like to remind those in attendance to please silence all cell phones at this time. Those attending the meeting who would like to make a public comment, you are required to complete a public comment card prior to speaking on the item. Your comment card must be presented to the city clerk prior to the agenda item being called. All speakers, please identify yourself by name, address, and organization before beginning your comment. If you are representing an organization, an affidavit is required stating you have the authority to speak on behalf of that organization. Please review tonight's agenda, and if you would like to make a comment, please bring your comment card to me now. Demonstration of any sort within the chamber is prohibited. Please refrain from any applause, cheering, booing, outburst, or dialogue with one person speaking. Anyone in violation will be asked to leave. As I call roll this evening, please confirm your attendance. Mayor Joe Lockwood.
Here.
Councilmember Peyton Jamison.
Here.
Councilmember Paul Moore.
Here.
Councilmember Laura Bentley.
Here.
Councilmember Carol Kirkley.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Longoria.
Here.
And Councilmember Rick Morrig.
Here.
Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I want to welcome and thank everybody for being here tonight. And if our city clerk could please sound the next item.
That item is approval of meeting agenda, agenda item number 21148. Mayor?
Okay. Do I have a motion for approval on the agenda, or is there anything that anybody needs to change or add? Okay, I'll open up.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion for approval from Councilmember Bentley with a second from Councilmember Moore. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Okay, do we have any general public comment tonight, Tammy?
I do not have any. No, sir.
Okay. And I will spare you the rules. All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. If our city clerk would please read those items aloud.
Thank you, Mayor. First item is approval of the financial statements and investment report for the period ending March 2021. That's agenda item number 21149. Our next item, approval of an agreement for outside providers and facility use agreement between the City of Milton and Rhythm and Shoes Dance to provide dance classes and camps. Agenda item number 21150. Next, approval of a professional services agreement between the City of Milton and Heath and Lineback Engineers, Inc. for Clarity Road Bridge analysis. Agenda item number 21151. Our fourth item, approval of an intergovernmental agreement between the Fulton County Board of Education and the City of Milton for a 5-year agreement to use Friendship Park located on the Crabapple Crossing campus for recreational purposes. Agenda item number 21152. Our fifth item, approval of the submittal of an application by the City of Milton for a potential internship opportunity with the Atlanta Regional Commission Sustainable Connections Program. Agenda item number 21153. Our sixth item, approval of a services agreement between the City of Milton and 5 Stevenson's Mechanical LLC for HVAC maintenance and on-call services. Agenda item number 21154. Our seventh item, approval for a contract with 10-8 Fire and Safety LLC for the provision of a ladder pumper fire apparatus, or QUINT, to the Milton Fire Rescue Department. Agenda item number 21155. Our next item, approval of subdivisions and plats. The first development is Killarney Investment LLC at 610 and 620 Doris Road, land lot 920 and 953 at District 2, Section 2. It is a minor plat subdividing one parcel into two tracts with a total of 5.14 acres at 0.39 lots per acre in density. Our second development, Dog Trot Farms, Hopewell Road, land lot 534, District 2, Section 2. It's a minor plat subdividing one parcel into three tracts. A total of 7.531 acres with a density of 0.40 lots per acre. Our third development is Yarborough Property at 15330 Hopewell Road, land lot 474, 475, 534, 535, District 2 and Section 2. It's a minor plat, platting of a property the city acquired and deeded for the Hopewell Road at Thompson Road intersection roundabout, a total of 10.25 acres. Agenda item number 21156. Mayor Lockwood.
Okay, do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Longoria with a second from Councilmember Morrig. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. So tonight, we don't have any reports and presentation items, so we'll move on to our first presentation. So Tammy, if you'll please read those off.
Thank you, Mayor. That first item is consideration of zoning text amendment, RZ 2105, Section 64, Article 19, Crabapple Form-Based Code, 6-1 definitions, Table 9, as it relates to breweries and distilleries. Agenda item number 21157. Our next item, consideration of zoning text amendments, RZ 2106, Section 64, Article 20, Deerfield Form-Based Code, 6-1 definitions, Table 10, as it relates to breweries and distilleries. Agenda item number 21158. Our third item, consideration of RZ 21-07 at 14140 Freemanville Road by Vio Hodis to rezone from AG1 to CUP, Community Unit Plan, on 9.079 acres to develop a 6-lot single-family residential subdivision. Applicant has requested withdrawal and Planning Commission has recommended withdrawal. Agenda item number 21159. Our fourth item is consideration of U2101 VC 21-03. It's at 2105 Bethany Way, containing multiple parcels for a total of 18.07 acres by the PFAJ Revocable Trust dated 2/17/2019 to request a use permit for agricultural related activities. Section 64-1797, and a two-part concurrent variance. The first is to allow the existing parking areas, wood pavilion, horse arenas, and driveways within the 100-foot activity setback, Section 64-1797D. The second is to allow the structures housing animals to be located within 100 feet of a property line, Section 64-1797E. Agenda item number 21160. Our fifth item is consideration of U21-02 at 2105 Bethany Way, containing multiple parcels for a total of 18.07 acres by the PFAJ Revocable Trust dated 2/17/2019 to request a use permit for rural event facility, Section 64-1842. Agenda item number 21161. Our sixth item, consideration of U 21-03 and VC 21-04 at 2105 Bethany Way, containing multiple parcels for a total of 18.07 acres by the PFAJ Revocable Trust dated 2/17/2019 to request a use permit for festivals or events, indoor, outdoor, section 64-1812, and the following 7-part concurrent variants. Number one, to delete the requirement for an 8-foot-high, 100% opaque fence adjacent to residential districts or AG1 district used for single-family dwellings, section 64-1812B2. The second one, to allow the existing parking within the 100 feet from a residential district or AG1 districts used for single-family dwellings, section 64-1812B4. The third, to eliminate the 3-year period from the date of the city council's approval, section 64-1812B6. The fourth item, to allow the 10-foot wide strip along all public streets to be planted with the existing landscaping vegetation along Bethany Way and Hopewell Road, section 64-1142A1. Fifth, to reduce or eliminate the 70-foot wide undisturbed buffer or alternative screening design with a 10-foot improvement setback adjacent to all AG1 zoning districts where existing structures, driveways, activity areas, and parking are shown on the site plan. Section 64-1142A3B. 6, to eliminate sidewalks along Bethany Way and Hopewell Road, section 64-1142E. And 7th, to allow for a lighting plan without light pole installation, section 64-1142F. Agenda item number 21162. Mayor?
Okay. Do I have a motion on the consent, on the first reading of the first presentation?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the first presentation items as read.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Bentley with a second from Councilmember Moore. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Okay, we don't have any public hearing or zoning agenda items tonight, so we're going to move on to unfinished business. And if the city clerk could please call the first item.
That first item is consideration of an ordinance to amend Chapter 46, Article 3 of the Milton Solid Waste Ordinance to provide additional standards for companies seeking to provide waste hauling services in city limits. Agenda item number 21163. Ms. Teresa Stickles.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have some minor updates to bring before you for your consideration tonight for Chapter 46 of the Solid Waste Ordinance. You'll recall that last week Bernadette was in front of you to discuss infrastructure fees. That I'm going to mention those a couple times, but that's not anything that's in this update. So that was a totally different discussion, and anything proposed in that discussion that had been proposed is not included in this. So if you can just totally silo those two things. And I say that, and of course, I'm going to mention infrastructure fees a couple of times here. So just as a reminder, our solid waste ordinance has 3 articles. The first one is just general, the definitions, sorry. The second article is litter control, and y'all updated that. I believe Robert Drury was in front of you in November of 2020, and you had did an update to that portion of the solid waste ordinance. Then Article 3 is what we're going to talk about tonight, and that has to do with collection services. It talks about what's expected of the waste haulers. It primarily talks about the city's relationship with the waste haulers. So the reason the update is even happening is that there have been issues for years about administering this ordinance. It just needed some tweaks. And we do understand that CPAC has, there's been a lot of feedback that maybe we need to review solid waste as an entire subject in the city. But in that will take a little time, and we don't know what the outcome of that would be. don't want to presuppose that. So in the meantime, I spoke to Sarah von Volkenberg about whether there were ways we could tighten up the ordinance to help improve the oversight of the haulers. So the way it's administered now, this third article is there is the infrastructure fee part of it, and that is handled out of finance. And as I say, Bernadette talked a little bit about that last week at the work session. The other part of it is the contract renewal between the city and the individual haulers. And that originally, back in the day, oddly enough, Matt Marietta used to do that. I don't know if any of y'all remember him coming before you with issues related to the solid waste ordinance. But once the sustainability coordinator, my predecessor, was hired, it was given to her. And then when I took the job, I inherited it. So that portion, the annual paperwork resides in ComDev. So the changes that I'm bringing before you are administrative in nature. I think they're very minor. I hope that they'll help me, help the city staff administer it, but they're just not that controversial. But since it's an ordinance change, of course, you still need to review it and weigh in on it. In the red line that you have, there are some sections that I'll go over. But in addition to that, there's some occasional words that are changed. And that was just legal's review. They can't help themselves to constantly want to make it better and more concise. So some of those changes, just a word here and there, Sarah suggested those just to make it more concise or more consistent in language. So I'm not going to talk about any of those changes. If you want to ask me about any of those, that's fine. So the proposed changes, the first one is in section 4665. It will improve the collection of the annual paperwork by having the term of the contract begin each year on July 1st and end on June 30th of the following year. And I know this is not gripping, but the way it works now is I send them paperwork after the first quarter infrastructure fees are due, just to make sure everybody's paid up through the previous year. And it's renewal paperwork. And some of them reply right away. Some of them, I have to give them a notice, sometimes a second notice. It can be an ongoing game to chase the paperwork down. So I may have some renewals that are done in March and some that aren't done until August. So we have this sort of moving slate of contracts. And we're intending to tighten up the oversight of the ordinance, and that's also related to the infrastructure fees. So we want everybody to have a drop dead date. Actually, that's probably not a good term. We want them to have a hard and fast date of July 1st for their paperwork. If their paperwork isn't in on July 1st, then the ordinance will give us the ability to just start the clock right then. They'll get a notice from our attorneys if they're not in compliance, and we'll go ahead and we're going to try to train them to be more responsive to us. And one of the things that the annual paperwork contains that I think is the most important part of it is their proof of insurance. So we just need every year to make sure that those big trucks that are barreling around the city are properly insured under our ordinance. So the second addition is it allows a mutual termination of the contract. This didn't exist in the ordinance before, and it may not seem like that big a deal, but if a company decides that it doesn't have enough customers or for whatever reason wants to pull out of Milton, the intention here, first of all, was to give them a process to do that. So we would come before council and let you know that they've asked to leave the city, to end the contract. But also, the hope is that we would be able to give all the customers 30 days notice. So that's exists to kind of give them a timeline if they decide that it's not profitable any longer to operate in Milton for whatever reason, then they hopefully would be able to they would come before us in this process, and that would allow 30 days notice for their customers. Now, there may be a scenario where there's some dramatic change of circumstance and say a company simply goes bankrupt or something like that. then 30 days notice may not be possible. We recognize that, but we just put it in here to sort of encourage the best behavior. I think in talking through this with Sarah Van Volkenberg, it's very hard to create an ordinance that can stop all the bad actors from misbehaving because you have to write a million things and think ahead of them. But we can write toward probably the average behavior. And so this is one of those instances where we're trying to just encourage them to think about their customers and give them that extra time to make other plans if they decide they're not going to operate here. So the last three really, that's been, that'll allow us to collect additional information from haulers so that we can improve our ability to serve notices as well as collect unpaid fees. So if we have a company that leaves Milton and has unpaid fees and they desire to return, or they return with a different company name, but the same principles, we have mechanisms. They have to now tell us their previous 4 years of company names and all the principles, and they would not be allowed to come back to the city unless they paid all those unpaid fees from before. So again, it's just, this is supposed to improve the oversight of the administration of the ordinance. That is my intention. That was my intention to coming to Sarah to try to tighten it up a little bit. I can't promise that that's going to be the ultimate outcome, but I think this is a step in the right direction. So, do you have any questions about this incredibly gripping subject?
It's important.
It's very important.
So, Teresa, is the method of renewal, are we allowing our, the people who are signing up to get that done either in person, via mail, or online?
You mean the haulers?
Yeah.
Historically, we've done it by mail.
Okay. Do we give them the option to do it online?
We don't collect email addresses for the companies. We just
I
have.
mean, there's not a automated form through our website that allows for the collection of the information that we need and all of the process to be automated.
We have the form online that they can fill out. Even the quarterly infrastructure fee form, that was the thing Bernadette was talking about, is not generated online.
So, okay, so we do it by mail, or they come into the office
Mhm.
and do it in person.
And some of them do that because some of them don't have.
You were talking about training. I like to use the term incenting good behavior. Do we have a penalty if they file late, and do we ramp that up the later they get?
Well, we don't in this version. Basically, that was the idea by making July 1st that hard deadline. So there's two components. I'm not talking about the infrastructure fee and any of these changes, but in order to be compliant, they have to both complete the annual paperwork for me, and I have to check with finance and make sure that they're paid up on all their, that there's no outstanding fees.
Right.
So the idea would be that if July 2nd, I don't have that paperwork or they still owe money, then legal sends them a letter and lets them know that they're out of compliance. And so the ordinance actually tells you what you have to do if you want to call a hauler in. So they get a 30-day.
We got two competitor haulers. One does everything by the book on time. The other one is always late, and we never get all the information that we need out of them. Why would this person want to be this person other than they have, some kind of internal rigor that requires it?
Sleep well at night. Yeah.
Right.
That's a great point. And
My
we have
point
that.
is, if there's no penalty, there's no
Mhm.
incentive for them to comply.
So there
And
is.
I'm not a guy who likes to penalize everybody, but if
Yeah.
you're dealing with bad behavior, and there's real liability for the hauler if they're operating without some of the requirements, and there's problems that are associated with that, it could be difficult for our citizens, and we don't want to allow that.
So there's a late fee and interest that's charged when they are overdue on their infrastructure fees. Okay, so that's already in the ordinance. And the ordinance says if we want, basically, if we consider someone in material breach of the ordinance, so that would be late on fees, not providing service, not doing,
Does it
then-
happen very often?
that they're in material breach.
How many people are late? We've only got 25 companies that we deal with,
Yeah.
right?
We have one or two chronic late haulers, one or two chronic ones.
Okay, so you also mentioned this idea of we need to make sure that they're covered from an insurance point of
Mhm.
view. Is there a insurance, an umbrella type policy that we really concern ourselves with? We're not really looking to make sure that every one of their vehicles is insured, right?
They send us a certificate of liability and the city's named as an
Okay.
additional insured. And
Okay.
that is, I will say for the, there's one in particular that's chronically behind on paperwork. And I have twisted arms. I typically get that from him, even if he doesn't give me anything else, because like I said, I view that as the most important thing that they give me.
I've got one other question. You're gonna think it's strange. Is any of the work, paperwork that they turn in, does it have to be notarized?
There's an affidavit that they do notarize. And what the affidavit says is this company agrees to be bound by the terms of our solid waste ordinance. So when they sign that, they're saying they'll do everything that the ordinance requires them to do, which includes recycling.
Okay, so when they, because this is just renewal of a contract that they signed years ago, potentially.
There was, using the word contract is a little, I'm sorry that Ken's not here, is a little odd.
Okay,
Because it's not like there was ever a contract that was brought before council like the normal contracts you see. They use the terminology in the,
that's okay.
Okay.
The reason I was asking that question is, believe it or not, I've gotten calls from business owners in our city that complain about the fact that everything that they do with the city has to be notarized.
oh,
And that they show up sometimes and if they don't have it notarized, then they have to leave and come back. We don't have a notary that can operate. It's a mess. So that was the only reason I really wanted to know that.
it was a real problem in 2020. It really was, because especially when my paperwork went out was when we were thick in the early days of the lockdown. And I had these big companies who are usually very responsive and they understand the importance of this kind of paperwork. They were calling me saying, we just can't, we're not allowed in the office. We can't figure out how we can get this notarized.
Well, hopefully we never have to revisit 2020 again.
Mhm.
So we'll see. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Laura?
So is there, if they're late with their application for the next year currently, there's no penalty?
There's no penalty like a fee, like a dollar amount. The penalty is if we choose to tell them they're in material breach of the ordinance, it starts this big long clock. You know, we have to give them 30 days notice to respond. And if they don't at that point, then they get a 20-day notice of a hearing before council. And then y'all can, I always tell them they get to come in and explain to y'all why they aren't, paying their fees or submitting their paperwork. At that point, you can choose to give them more time or you can, terminate their contract and kick them out of the city, which, within memory, we have had to do that for a previous hauler.
The things that you propose seem very reasonable, and I support your expert insider information. So, hope they can get their stuff in. If it's, I don't remember anyone coming before us in the past.
Yeah, like
I've been on-
8 years ago.
Okay,
we had
sorry.
somebody-
Okay.
10 years ago, you removed one hauler, and maybe 2 years ago, there was another one. I don't know if you remember.
8, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It was a while back.
So only 2 in the history of the city.
Okay. Any other questions?
I just felt compelled to ask questions. Anybody who supplies us with mints, I think deserves at least one or two.
Oh, is that who?
Yes.
I've been staring at him for the last, and I finally just cracked, so.
Tammy, do you have any public comment?
Not on this item, sir, no.
Okay. Well, open up for a motion then.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item number 21-163.
Second.
I have a motion for approval from Councilmember Bentley with a second from Councilmember Longoria. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That passes unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to new business. If Tammy will please sound the next item.
That item is consideration of an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Milton and the City of Alpharetta regarding joint use of municipal court facilities and shared municipal clerk services. Agenda item number 21-164, Ms. Stacy Inglis.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I'm here to talk to you tonight about the IGA you have before you to share our municipal court facilities with the City of Alpharetta and to share our municipal court clerk. So a little bit of background, back in September 2020, the city administrator of Alpharetta approached our city manager about forming a partnership to co-locate court services in our brand new court facility that was just recently finished, and to also share a municipal court clerk. Their court clerk retired, and so they were also looking at potentially building a new facility, and they thought now would be a great time to talk to the City of Milton about forming a partnership. And so we started to do a feasibility study. We entered a short-term agreement to give us some time to explore the feasibility of co-locating and sharing. And that is just what we did. So we looked at several focus areas that needed to be satisfied in order for us to deem this a feasible project. First, we looked at space and furniture needs, spatial needs. We wanted to make sure that we had enough room to house their personnel, as well as the courts want to make sure that the days they hold court were different from our days. There was no rearranging of the schedules, and wanted to figure out if we had to purchase additional furniture, which we do. So Alpharetta has 4 deputy court clerks or record clerks and a court clerk. And we have space for 2. And so we would need to purchase 2 additional workstations. We already had a court clerk office space. And the judge's furniture that's in the office that we currently have is a couch, basically. And so we needed to put a desk in there for more use, better use of that space. So we contacted the same company that furnished the new buildings and got a price quote of $18,300 thereabout. Just confirmed actually today, right before I walked into the meeting, that price is still good, and that is good and through the end of June. So that was great news. The next thing we looked at was IT needs, the infrastructure needs that we needed to make sure that their employees were able to work in our facility. So we currently have a point-to-point connection between the Milton Public Safety Complex and the Alpharetta 911 Center because they do our 911 services. So we looked at possibly doing a fiber connection. Currently, Alpharetta has a connection at the Windward Highway 9 intersection. And so we would be running a fiber down Highway 9 into the Milton Public Safety Complex. That would, and the Milton would also be able to tap into that. We would get rid of the point-to-point connection and utilize this fiber connection. As far as other infrastructure needs, they would not be housing any of the servers or anything in the City of Milton. We talked between the IT departments about any help desk support or anything that would be needed, kind of hash through who would be the first point of contact for any kind of help desk support, how that would go through, and determine that that was feasible with everything that was discussed. The next thing we looked at was cashiering requirements. We wanted to make sure that co-locating 2 court services in one building and collecting payments on behalf of both courts would work well. And so we talked between, Brooke Lappin is here, by the way. We talked between Brooke and our finance department kind of went through some of the processes of how payments would be handled, who would handle them. It would be their employees, would be our employees. And we determined that each court would be handling their own payments, but there would be some cross-training involved, because if there's any needs, if our deputy court clerk is out one day and Brooke isn't available to take a payment at the front, then one of the Alpharetta employees would stand up in the front and vice versa. And as far as banking requirements, there are both cities utilize the same bank, which is nice. And so we would be able to take the deposits at the same time to the bank. The software system that both cities use is the same, eCourt. I believe Alpharetta is in the middle of implementing eCourt in their facility right now, or in their court services. So both utilizes the same system. There could be dual sign-ons on one computer, and the ticket numbers or case numbers are different enough that you can't confuse the two. Credit card payments, the credit card machines can be configured for each system. So there's no commingling of funds there. And then each city would operate their own cash drawer. For personnel, since we are co-locating in one facility, there would not be any additional personnel needed. With Alpharetta employees coming into our facility, Alpharetta has agreed to follow our personnel policies. We already talked about each court would handle their own court operations, but there would be some cross-training. The last thing we looked at was cost considerations. So we looked at rent calculations. What would be a reasonable amount that we could charge the city of Alpharetta for co-locating in our facility? So we talked to a leasing company that manages Class A office space and found out in that area, the average cost per square foot is between $25 to $28 per square foot. We figured the square feet of the new court area, and you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The only thing we did not include in the square footage calculation was number 5, which is basically a shared lobby between police and court. We felt that was fair to just use 1, 2, 3, and 4 court areas, because those would be utilized the most. And then the space allocation, because Alpharetta operates 3 days a week for court, and Milton operates 2 days a week for court, a 60-40 cost allocation is reasonable. So if you apply the total square footage to the lowest average square footage per Class A office space in that area, $25, you come up with $135,000 annually for the whole space. When you apply the cost allocation of 60-40, 60% would be Alpharetta's share. The amount for the total rent for a year would be $81,300 per month. That would be almost $7,000 per month. So looking at a cost benefit, we wanted to apply what the annual rent was and to what the cost would be for sharing Brooke with Alpharetta, because now Brooke is an Alpharetta employee. Her salary plus benefits would be roughly $156,000 per year. Our 40% of her allocation would be around $62,000 per year. We do have some budgetary savings because we did budget for a full-time clerk for the whole year at $112,500. And then we would do away with that point-to-point connection, which is about an $8,400 per year cost. And so annually, we would actually gain about $140,000 by doing this. Of course, there's budgetary concerns there, but annually, we would still work out to be the better. If you go forward, it's about $13,000 annually that we would gain in this. The other cost benefit to this is actually fulfilling the current comp plan. There is a plan priority in there that talks about partnering opportunities with neighboring jurisdictions. And the first objective is to identify opportunities to share facilities and services. So this fulfills that priority. We did look at alternatives. We can return back to the normal operations where we employ a full-time person, a full-time court clerk. The pros would be complete control over our court operations, limited wear and tear on a new facility, no dependence on another municipality. And the cons is the cost is higher, obviously, to employ a full-time clerk versus sharing a court clerk. Other cons that I didn't list here would be a potentially damaging relationship with the city of Alpharetta. You were actually about to consider another IGA coming right after this item. And I don't know how that would work out, but I was just saying that you could damage future partnership opportunities. And the other item, or the other alternative is to continue to share the court clerk but not co-locate, and we just determined that was not feasible. For Brooke to have to go back and forth between the two facilities is just not feasible. So my recommendation is to move forward with the IGA being considered tonight. This has already been approved by the city of Alpharetta last Monday, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
So are there any questions?
I just have a comment.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm very much in favor of this, and I appreciate this kind of streamlining, which is in the benefit of all the citizens. So, well done.
Thank you.
And also, no, Brooke, thank you for being here tonight. I'm gonna assume you're good with it all work out good as far as physically for you and. Okay, okay, good. All right, good. Thank you for working together with us. All right, there's no other comments. Do we have any public comments?
No, sir.
I'll close the hearing and I'll open up for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make motion that we approve agenda item number 21-164.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Morgan with a second from Councilmember Cookerly. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. All right, Tammy, if you'll please call the next new business item.
That next item is consideration of a memorandum of understanding between the city of Milton and the city of Alpharetta to waive non-residential fees associated with youth football, youth softball, and therapeutic summer camps. Agenda item number 21165, Mr. Tom McElveen.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. What you have before you here is a proposed MOU for your consideration with the City of Milton. This MOU is a little bit different, or a lot different, than the previous MOU that we had from 2012 to 2019. When I met with this Alpharetta staff, we were looking for an agreement that was beneficial for both cities without all the reporting and the transfer of funds from city to city. So we were looking at specific programs where it made sense. And those three programs were softball, football, and our special needs summer camps that we offer. So first up, we have the youth football program. Under this proposed MOU, Milton would take the football programming for both cities. So right now, the way it's currently constructed, our football provider, NAFL, provide football. They have a contract with Alpharetta and they have a contract with us as well. Alpharetta would not renew their contract and we would take the football programming. And then the MOU would allow the Alpharetta residents to participate in our football program. Alpharetta would not allow one of the fields at North Park. Right now, they allow 2 fields for football. They would remove one of the fields from their usage, and the city of Milton would take on 1 field, an additional field. Then we move into youth softball. Alpharetta would retain the softball program, and then our city of Milton residents could participate in that program at the resident rate. We don't have any softball fields right now, so we wouldn't be able to contribute any softball fields at this time. But the big kick is the Milton participants would be considered residents in the travel softball program, which really got hit hard when the MOU expired because there was a lot of Milton participation on that travel softball side. And then the last is the special needs summer camps. Camp Joyful Souls is the Milton program. We offer ages 13 to 22. The Camp Joyful Soul, or the Camp Happy Hearts, excuse me, offers ages 6 to 12. So it was a no-brainer Mary there. We could offer programming for both cities at that resident rate to help those programs or those families, excuse me. There is a minimal fiscal impact to this proposed MOU here. And it's the loss of non-resident fee collection, roughly a little bit less than 6,000 per year between those two programs. You know, there's all the reporting that we had to do in the previous MOU took weeks for multiple staff members. So, you know, there's saved time on the staff level. You know, the Milton residents and Alpharetta residents would be able to enjoy all these programs at a more affordable rate. Any questions?
Any question for Tom, Laura, Joe?
I have a question just to help my memory. If I recall, we couldn't, I mean, the women's or girls softball is dependent on both cities really making up those teams. There's not enough really in just our city to have a viable softball league. So, and I do remember getting a lot of emails from softball parents. So is that correct?
Yes, yeah, it's a rather small program, even when the MOU was in place. It wasn't a huge program, and when it got broken up, it made it hard on Alpharetta to keep it going.
Great, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, Joe?
So I appreciate you pointing out the amount of revenue that the city loses because we don't charge non-resident fees. Obviously, there's a portion of that, or Alpharetta experiences the same thing for softball and whatever the other program was. Is there any chance, because we seem to be taking a baby step, which I think is great, but we're recognizing the fact that the close proximity of our cities, it leads to not only some confusion, but some opportunity in terms of providing service to everybody, because there's obviously some programs that the city of Milton has that Alpharetta citizens want to use, and there's some programs that the city of Alpharetta has and Milton citizens want to use. Why don't we do away with this residence fee altogether? Non-residence fee, rather. Tom's going for backup. Help.
I saw him going for it.
Rhetorical question. You don't have to answer it. Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Paul?
Tom, in the first part of the presentation, you talked about Alpharetta there's one football field coming out of the equation. Can you help me understand what's the rationale behind that? Why is it not going to be used?
The NAFL program right now is very heavily Milton residents as it is. Roughly 2/3 of the participants are Milton residents, and only 1/3 of the allocated fields are in Milton. So part of making it work with Alpharetta was, well, if 2/3 of the program is Milton residents, let's have 2/3 of the field allocation to Milton fields.
So the 3 fields that'll be used will be sufficient to accommodate, nobody will be turned away from the programs based on the number of fields that are being used?
No.
Is that 4th field going to sit vacant?
There isn't a 4th. 2 fields where Alpharetta, 1 was provided by Milton. So we're just flip-flopping who's providing the fields. So there's still 3 fields being used.
Explain it to me again, please.
Okay, in previous years, this past fall that just happened,
Right.
2 fields at North Park were being used for football. 1 field at Bell Park
Right.
was being used for football. If we move forward with this MOU, the amount of fields that each city would provide would be flipped.
Yes.
Mhm.
So there's 1 field then in Alpharetta that is not going to be committed to the program.
Correct.
So my question still stands then, is what is that field going to be used for? I mean,
The
you already
Alpharetta
answered
field?
it. There's no kid that won't be able to play because of lack of space. The 3 fields should be sufficient. Is the fourth field available if there's like a makeup practice or a, makeup game if they get some sort of inclement weather situation and they need to make up a game? Can that 4th field come into play?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay, so it's just not off the table for some unusual reason.
No,
It's just
and
about-
the amount of, and with the 3 fields we would have, there would be a lot of space available.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Well done.
Brother Peyton?
No, yeah, I just want to go to Joe's point. I think this is a step in the right direction, and
Yeah.
I applaud Alpharetta and Milton coming together and getting this done. And I think it's great.
Yep, I think it's beneficial to, all our citizens, Alfred and Milton. So. Okay, do we have any public comment on this?
We do not, sir.
Okay, I'll close the hearing part and open up for a motion.
All right, I'll do it.
I do, and thank you guys for working together with Alpharetta on this.
Mm-hmm. And the PRAB, the Parks and Rec
Yeah,
Board
yeah,
also
both Parks and
vetted
Rec
this, so thank you.
Yes.
Very much so. Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve agenda item number 2021-165.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion for approval from Councilmember Cookerly with a second from Councilmember Moore. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks.
Way to go, Tom.
All right, if our city clerk will please send the third new business item.
That third item is a consideration of a transportation special purpose local option sales tax known as T-Spots 2 project list. Ms. Sarah Leaders, agenda item number 21166.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I'm going to review a few of the highlights from the work session and present the proposed T-Splosh 2 project list for consideration. So as you know, Fulton County is preparing for a transportation special purpose local option sales tax referendum this November. And then related to developing our project list, we've held a couple of events for public input. Held a project list development forum on May 11th, did that in a in-person and virtual and recorded format. We held a project list comment forum on our T-Splosh project website that began on May 6th. And then we had discussion at the May 17th work session on the project list. And tonight, presenting a vote on the proposed project list. So once all the project lists are submitted to the county, they will develop an intergovernmental agreement with all the cities. And then once that agreement's approved, there will be a resolution for adoption by the County Board of Commissioners that would be for the election, and election would be November 2nd. Down the right-hand side of the slide is the latest funding estimate. I'll show on the next slide that data that came from Fulton County. And we're looking at a projected $546 million for T-Splosh 2. And the latest Milton estimates is 6.6% of the county population. And so then we look at how that splits out into 3 tiers, with tier 2 being 100% of the projected collections. Tier 1 is 85%, and then tier 3 is 115%. Collections would begin April of 2022 and run for 5 years. Here's the slide I showed at the work session as well. It's the latest funding scenario estimate from Fulton County. They also looked at the projections for T-Splosh 1 that's underway currently and have shown Milton to collect an estimated $32 million, with for T-Splosh 2 a projection of $36 million. Then highlighting where we are with T-Splosh 1 that's currently underway. Collections began April of 2017. The right-hand side is the project list that was part of the IGA with T-Splosh 1. So you can see the 3 tiers of projects, and then the project funding amounts are listed only for the project purpose, with the individual projects just listed underneath of those. Show what we have underway with the check mark, and then the portions we have completed are marked on this list. So we have most of tier 1 underway at this point. Tier 2, we've started concepts on 2 of the intersections listed in the operations and safety category. So those are just in the concept stage. And then the remaining projects on the T-Splosh 1 list that we haven't gotten to are all primarily programs, and we wrap those programs into the proposed T-SPOS 2 list. And then these are just roughly the highlights of what is underway, what is planned with T-SPOS 1, as far as widening new roadways, sidewalk trails, 6 roundabouts, some turn lane projects, the 3 intersections that are in concept phase, and 1 bridge. Wanted to show again the importance of planning documents and developing our project list, as well as the public input through this T-SPOS 2 process. We have the 2016 Comprehensive Transportation Plan, the 2018 North Fulton Plan, the Comprehensive Plan, the Trail Prioritization Plan, the Strategic Plan, and then 2 to highlight in particular here are the upcoming 2022 Milton Comprehensive Transportation Plan and the Local Road Safety Plan. And those 2 documents will really play into help laying out the specifics for the projects that we have identified in general categories. Looking at our strategic plan, one of the goals is to implement a transportation infrastructure that meets current needs, accounts for future growth, and allows residents to traverse Milton in a calm, safe, and efficient manner. And those objectives under that strategic plan goal really fit the operations safety category and then the bicycle and pedestrian category of T-SPOS project types. The bottom 3 project types really support more of that infrastructure-focused projects as far as maintaining and improving our infrastructure. So these are the 5 project types that we're proposing on our project list, and we have some general project descriptions under those. Just graphically shows those project types and how they break down across the funding tiers. So tier 1, these are the different project types proposed, and I'll show them in more detail on the next slide, but this is just a breakdown of how they, what percentage of the overall tier funding that each of these types represents. And this is the same slide I showed at the work session. I did have one math error that I corrected, but looking at in tier 1, what will show up on the IGA are the bold project types with the funding, and then the projects underneath will not have the funding breakdown, but I've shown this as a estimate of what this could look like. Again, those planning documents that are underway would really provide the specifics of what we move forward with under some of these categories. So for operations and safety, we did call out Cox Road intersection improvements, and that could include Cox at Etris Ebenezer and Cox at King, as well as Cox Road at the athletic complex driveway. City of Roswell is considering contributing a portion of funding to these improvements because they have one leg of those 2 intersections is in the City of Roswell. So they're considering their list this week. And if they don't contribute funding, this still will be enough to fund those intersections. And if they do provide funding, the additional could go into the efficiency or safety categories. We have the bicycle pedestrian improvement category, and under that, talked about bicycle accommodations, and what that really looks like will come out of the local road safety plan and the transportation plan as far as which roads are designated for what type of bike facilities. Then pedestrian enhancement and streetscape, that could be used on the State Route 9 project, enhancing some of those walls or streetscapes, and then community trail prioritization plan, funding to further implement the recommendations out of that plan. We have the bridges category and maintenance safety. Maintenance and safety includes a line item for specific strategies from the local road safety plan. Quick response is those low-cost operational minor improvement projects, and then program management to help us track and manage the program. Tier 2 just adds, again, those two categories of operations safety and bike ped, and Tier 3, operations safety, bike ped, and quick response. So the next steps with the project list are the consideration of adopting that project list tonight. We would then submit that to Fulton County, and it would be included in the IGA, and it would expect to see the IGA as a council agenda item in July. And I'll answer any questions.
Any questions for Sarah?
Question.
Laura?
Sarah, thank you very much. And I know we're keeping it, the list at a kind of a high level, but I did have someone ask about neighborhood paving, because some of our neighborhoods are getting a little bit older. Of that 5 million in Tier 1, do we have any of that allocated for paving of neighborhoods?
We could look at a specific residential program, and it could be part of that is a preservation program that helps extend the life of some neighborhood streets. So we're not spending all of the 5 million right on resurfacing of neighborhood roads, but maybe partial is to preserve, to extend the life, and then some resurfacing, and then possibly some of that could go to some of the collector roads, or it could free up some general funds that go to the paving program too. So we've got a couple options with doing that.
Whatever the percentage is, just to be sure that we don't, forget about them. And preserving sounds good, because I know that they don't have the volume of traffic, but if you live in a big neighborhood that's starting to see some wear and tear, I know we've heard from some folks. And then, of course, trails are a big, priority, as we discussed last week. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Do we have any public comment, Tammy?
We do not.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing part. Thank you, Sarah. And I'll open up for a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item number 21-166.
Okay, I have a motion for approval from Councilmember Bentley with a second from Councilmember Moore. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Okay, we can move on to our next new business item.
That item is consideration of an agreement between the City of Milton and Strategic Materials, Inc. to provide a collection bin and associated hauling service for the purpose of glass recycling. Agenda item number 21-167. Ms. Teresa Stickles.
Good evening, Mayor and Council again. So this is a little bit more exciting than my earlier presentation. I think y'all are anticipating this as much as I have been.
So are you saying that I might not get some of these calls saying they're going to dump their stuff on my driveway?
I can't actually promise that. But let's hope they reduce in number. So this is glass recycling. Just going to go over quickly. Y'all have heard this spiel from me before, and those of you who are on the CPAC have heard this several times. Prior to 2017, Milton residents were able to get rid of their glass and their curbside recycling. Around 2016, 2017, materials recovery facilities, which are also called MRFs, stopped accepting glass in the mixed recycling, commingled or single stream. So glass, we in 2017, I came before the council and painfully asked that glass be removed from the list of required recyclables. At that point, people that were committed to recycling glass found it pretty convenient to drop it off at the Roswell Recycling Center. And that continued up until March of 2020, when it closed to all but Roswell residents. Now, initially, that closing was due to COVID, and much like we behaved here at City Hall, Roswell needed to find how to keep both their visitors and their staff safe. So they decided to close the facility entirely. And then they opened it up to Roswell residents only. So at that point, it was a little bit beyond just the COVID protocol. It was probably a budgetary issue. We've been a little surprised that they haven't reopened to the community at large, because the facility depends on the recycled recyclables that come in, they are sold, and that's revenue for the facility. Now, my understanding is that revenue, that facility is never really broken even. Roswell still subsidizes it, but if you think about it now, they're getting even less recycling coming in. So it really is hard to understand how their numbers are working out. But regardless of that, it is closed to the general community, only open to Roswell residents. So that leaves the Keep North Fulton Beautiful Recycling Center in Sandy Springs as our only option for our residents who are committed to recycling glass. So you can imagine that when we went from sticking glass in the curbside recycling to having to drive over to Roswell recycling, we probably saw a decrease in glass recycling rates. So then, at March of last year, we lost the opportunity to go Roswell recycling, and we're having to send our residents down to Sandy Springs. I can only imagine that we've seen a dramatic drop in glass recycling in the city of Milton. Now, at the same time, I'm hearing from people how very much they want to recycle. It's just, in order to make this work, it really has to be more convenient than driving down to Sandy Springs. And if you think about the environmental cost, you know, if you're recycling glass, but you're driving down to Sandy Springs to do it, you know, it's not as cut and dry. It's something we want to be able to help our residents do what they want to do, which is recycle glass. So in 2020, the city, actually, council member Jameson was approached by 2 Milton High School students. They had shown a great deal of initiative. They went to a glass recycler and they said, we want to see if you'll donate a collection bin and the emptying of it to the city for free. And I love that. That's very, that's a lot of initiative and very gutsy. But it turns out that the glass industry, the glass recycling industry is desperate for glass. In fact, in Georgia, they are importing recycled glass from other states in order to create product here. So
What?
yes, that is true. That is true. So, so this glass recycler, which is Strategic Materials Incorporated, they're a leader in glass recycling. They said, yeah, we'll do that. If the city of Milton will come up with a location, we'll give them a bin and we'll handle the associated hauling. So initially, the students had wanted to site the bin at Milton High School because they have a club there, the Clean and Green Club, and they were interested in overseeing. They wanted the city involved in it, but they were interested in sort of overseeing the dumpster, having their club do it. So the principal at Milton was very supportive, but the decision had to be sent to Fulton County Board of Education for approval. And there it has languished in the interim. So the kids could see that was happening. So they said, in the event that we can't put it at Milton, at the high school, does the city have any places? And of course, they're young and enthusiastic, so they're thinking, the city's got lots of places to put them in. And it turns out, you know, when you're trying to find a location for anything, it's never just a matter of saying, oh, let's put it here. So there was a lot of give and take. But I am proud to say that our process has been quicker than the Fulton County Board of Education because we were able to come up with an agreement with Strategic Materials. We were able to come up with a location, and Tom is back. So I want to say a special thanks to Tom McElveen in particular and the Parks and Rec Department in general for agreeing to let us have the pilot location at Bell Memorial Park. So it's going to be in this, this is the gravel overflow area of the parking lot. So we'll have it back here. I did learn more about the needs of a glass collection bin that I had ever imagined needing to know. It needs to be in It needs to be visible, it needs to be easily accessible, but it needs to be well lit and locked up at night so you don't get illegal dumping. If we get a lot of contamination in these loads, they'll stop collecting. They'll just say it's a broken agreement and we won't have a local glass drop-off point. So that's where we've gonna put the first one. And this is an image of what their bins look like. They are quite eye-catching, as you can see. It is huge. It's not just a regular size dumpster like you would see behind a business. It's got those 3 openings. So they actually send a really large truck will bring an empty one and pull this one away. So they'll be side by side. You know, one will go in the corner, and then when they switch it out, it'll be in the next spot, and then the next time. So it'll be back and forth. So it'll kind of occupy that entire area in the back corner, which Tom assures me that they can donate the space for that. If this is successful, then the SMI will give us a second bin for a second location. Again, free of charge with the associated hauling. But we're letting this one be a pilot. We have to make sure that people behave properly. We can only get glass in there. We can't have any other misbehavior. And so we're sort of taking this as the pilot. And I will be honest with you, I don't have a second location at my fingertips, but if this works, then we will go back to the drawing board and find another place to put it. Or maybe by that time, Milton High School will have gotten permission to put the second one there. The second thing I wanted to tell you was that I'm going to have a proclamation before you next, the next meeting, June 7th, to honor the Milton students for doing this. Just with the craziness of the end of the school year, I wasn't able to get it ready for this time, but you will see them on June 7th. So you'll be able to let them know how much the city appreciates their efforts. And want to mention Mark Arrington is here tonight. He has, as you know, been our recycling champion since the start of the city. He has been fully supportive of this. In fact, when I first gave him a heads up that this was coming down the pike, he was brainstorming for locations where we could put it on city property. So we had a lot of people bringing a lot of talent and enthusiasm to the project. And I guess finally, I should say that staff recommends that you approve this agreement because it normally would be under consent, but we thought it was a shame to hide it there. We wanted to get a chance to let you hear about it. So you will have to vote to approve it if you so choose.
Okay. No, I want to thank you, Teresa, and staff. Obviously, it's a great service, not only for our residents, but really for our environment. So, Mark, thank you for all your hard work and all these years. Open up to any questions. Rick?
Yeah, just a couple. Do I understand this correctly, that there's no cost to us then because they want the material?
That's right.
That's
They're doing it for the glass.
This is a
We're
great,
paying them in glass.
this is a great move and no cost, and we're providing service. And also, will we be putting signs up to kind of give the recommendations or the rules of what you can put in there, what's allowable recycling?
Yeah, there'll have to be signage there, and we'll roll out some notices when the bin is in place. We'll make sure will probably, I would guess, the Herald will have a piece, and Greg will send some information out, an e-blast, letting people know.
This is great. This is great. Great effort. Appreciate what you guys did.
So Teresa, given this information that glass is actually in demand and it's needed, should we revisit the language that we have in our recycling, clause in our waste haulers?
Well, they can't send it in single stream to the materials recovery facilities. So the only way that it can be recovered is if there is a third bin. That's what they're doing in Alpharetta and Roswell, both of whom just have one hauler.
So you're saying if we recycle glass, the glass has to be all by itself?
It does. It can't be
Okay.
with the other
right.
recyclables.
I just want to make sure that we're good and we don't have any breaches with contamination. So who's gonna, how will we get those bins locked? How will they,
Well,
what's
the,
the plan for that?
so the park is locked.
Okay.
You know, they have gates, which if, you know, we need more specifics, Tom can give us. But that was part of the appeal of putting it there, is that those gates are locked, so nobody can drive in. I mean, I guess somebody could hop the gate and carry something over there, but it's not going to be like a sofa or a TV. That would be bad, or even household garbage. That was the, again, this is a pilot. We want people to behave well. I can't stand up here and guarantee you that's,
So it would be good though. I mean, surveillance cameras are
Right.
cheap and that would be a huge
Even if
deterrent.
we
I
own
love
them?
surveillance cameras, so let's do that.
are there already cameras out there?
Yeah. We have camera system at Bell, but it's so, that location is so far away from the internet access that we use. You could put deer cams or something.
Yeah, deer cam will work. That's what, let's do that.
Yeah.
Some drones that fly in and out on a regular basis.
We just
Yeah.
solved it. Thank
And,
you.
and during the day, the park will be staffed with maintenance. So they'll be there throughout the day to.
Oh, it'll be very convenient for the, people going to the park and, making that trip. That's awesome. Thank you so much. That's,
And Tom's already talked to Triscapes about keeping an eye on the dumpster. We'll have to monitor it, especially early on. I anticipate there's a real pent up need, and so it'll quickly fill the first few times. So once it's full, and I'll have to work with Greg, I mean, we may have to put out a little notice, it's closed, because it will take a couple days to get it changed out, because it is a big semi that comes and moves it. So we can't call and get same day service. So.
Do we have any public comment? And
No.
all right, Paul?
Teresa, what's the targeted start date?
Well, if you approve this tonight, I hope that we can have it in place I'm going to say the first part of June. I'd like to say the first week of June. They're ready to go. We're ready to go.
And we'll do probably social media. Thanks, Greg. Just like to say thank you. I know you've been a champion of this for a long time, Teresa. Great job on
Thank
this.
you.
And Mark, the role that you've played, Mark Arrington, thank you. You gave me a great education when I first stepped into this seat, and appreciate the education you gave me and your willingness to continue to poke at us to get this done. Job well done by everybody.
Well, and I'll tell you, there's been tremendous support from the council, from the, city leadership. It wouldn't have gone anywhere if everybody wasn't.
And I'll just add, there's been tremendous support from our citizens, wanting to recycle. So it's all good. So, all right, if there's no more questions, we have no public comments. I'll close the hearing. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve agenda item number 21-167.
Second.
Do I have a motion for approval from Councilmember Moore with a second from Councilmember Moore? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you, Teresa, and
Thank you.
everybody else. All right, City Clerk, will please sound the final new business item.
That final item is consideration and possible imposition of an immediate 35-day moratorium on the acceptance of alcohol applications, building permit applications, and land disturbance permit applications for farm wineries within the city of Milton, while otherwise modifying the city's land use code regarding farm wineries as a by right use. Agenda item number 21-168, City Attorney, Mr. Ken Gerard.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you very much. This last item is a topic that I know has been on the council's mind of late, which is the by right availability to operate a farm winery in the city of Milton. I believe, again, it'll be up to the council, of course. There may be an interest in imposing a moratorium with respect to the three items in the agenda header as they pertain to farm wineries, and this is important. While the city of Milton otherwise modifies its code with respect to the as of right use of a farm winery in AG1. I know that I have spent some time as your city attorney engaged in these issues, and I know that staff has as well as citizens come forward wanting to know exactly what sort of uses do accompany the farm winery as of right use, and the fact that perhaps Milton should have some additional regulatory controls over that use. Moratorium is just like what it sounds. It is in fact a prohibition. And so the three things that are caught up in this moratorium would be the acceptance of alcohol applications, the acceptance of a building permit application, or the acceptance of a land disturbance permit application, all of those being the sorts of things that someone might want to come in and do to become vested with respect to a farm winery use in AG1. You may ask why the 35 days. The 35 days is because we are doing this without a formal public hearing, but I believe the better play is to go ahead and get the moratorium in place. That is intended to maintain the status quo while we have then the luxury of being able to modify our codes, the thought being that if we don't maintain the status quo, by the time we go through the somewhat laborious task of modifying the code, individuals will have brought in applications and therefore become vested. So we will effectively close the barn door once the horses have left Milton. That's a good expression. In any event, having said that, 35 days is about as long as I would want to have a moratorium until we have a public hearing. Therefore, should you in fact adopt this agenda item this evening, 35-day moratorium, which will run until June 28th. On June 28th, we will have a zoning procedures law public hearing. I will have advertised that in the legal organ and otherwise have a formal resolution that will extend the moratorium much longer, probably another 120 days. That moratorium will in fact expire on its own terms when we modify the code to build in those regulatory controls that you all want to build in, assuming you do. And I suspect that you may want to. So, Mr. Mayor, that's it. There's no formal backup. There's no resolution. This is truly going to be just a motion-based enactment this evening. That's my presentation.
I'll open up for a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve agenda item number 21-168.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Longoria for approval with a second from Councilmember Cookerly. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we will move on to reports. Is there anything any council members have that they'd like to report on?
Joe, I've got one.
Okay, go ahead, Paul.
It's actually just a thought. Steve, this is for you in particular. We don't have a steering committee meeting for CPAC this week, and there's got a couple of weeks gap while some of the hard work's being done behind the scenes. And something occurred to me that as we're thinking about some of the critical mass that's going to come to the vitality of Crabapple and possibly Deerfield as well with some of the future businesses that will be coming here, that I don't recall a discussion, good, bad, or indifferent, on the following topic: whether or not we should have consideration for street performers, artists, street vendors, food trucks, like chalk artists, pop-up corner performers, anything of the kind, mimes, whether or not we want to consider good, bad, or indifferent. Does that bring good, or does it bring something that's not desired for the vitality of this entertainment area of, business vitality that's coming to Crabapple and other parts of the city as well? So I just offer that for consideration.
Is this something you want to see brought back before CPAC?
I do. I think it's worth consideration.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything else on council?
I have a comment, just in light of our great progress with Alpharetta and the MOU and the partnership on the court. I mean, it's great. I walk the trails over in North Park on a regular, couple times a week. And one of our citizens who lives in your neighborhood, Greg, is working tirelessly on those trails in the city, of Alpharetta is North Park. So my point of mentioning this, they're beautiful. He's an engineer and he's putting wood chips down, and citizens don't care about boundaries and whose park is this and that. They just know it's part of their community. So what we saw tonight and the cooperation and moving forward and doing what's best for citizens is really, it's very rewarding. So that was great to see, and I'm glad that was something we got to get done tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, good point. I had to participate as a panelist on a possible new city formation, and that was one of the big things I brought up was being able to work together with your sister cities and all that, so that it really wasn't about borders. It was just about citizens and all, serving everybody. So good job. All right, we'll open up staff reports.
Greetings, Mayor, members of council. Looking at our crime data year to date, we're showing through April an overall decline of 14% from last year's numbers this time. Crashes, as you know, they plummeted in 2020 due to COVID. However, we're well below our 3-year average from 2017 data, which is 45. So through April, we had a total of 40 crashes for a reduction of 11% over the last 3-year average, excluding last year. In the community, we had a busy month. We celebrated National Police Week from May 9th through the 15th, and we were very happy to host several events and be involved throughout the North Fulton community in some other events. We held a free shredding event to give citizens an opportunity to destroy sensitive documents with personal information. I participated in a panel discussion hosted by St. James United Methodist Church, where members of the public came together to discuss and ask questions about many topics involving law enforcement. We also participated in a fallen officer ceremony hosted collaboratively by the Roswell, Alpharetta, and Milton Police Departments. And this is something I'm proud to say the North Fulton area began with the Milton Police Department a few years ago. We held this outdoor this year at the Roswell Area Park, where we commemorated the lives of the Georgia officers who lost their lives in the line of duty during 2020. And the week culminated with the Milton Police Department's annual award ceremony, where we took time to commemorate a number of individuals, both in our department and the community, who made a difference and significant contributions over the year and helped the Milton Police Department fulfill our mission, vision, and values. And overall, it was a very busy week of celebration and commemoration, but it was a great week. We really enjoyed engaging with our citizens. And that's all I have tonight. Yes, sir.
Chief, depending on what news channel you watch, it's easy to hear headlines about rising crime rates and issues that we're having from a, let's call it social management point of view. Are we having any difficulty in that area? Have you seen any uptick? Is there any spillover from, other cities that is impacting Milton in that regard?
No crime trends that I've seen that would indicate that. One thing that we do very well is we communicate with our other area police departments. For instance, we'll meet with all the area chiefs tomorrow, as a matter of fact, and we'll talk about our different crime problems. We address trends before they get out of hand. So we deploy resources very intelligently, and we stay on top of things. So I think that helps. We're very proactive.
Rick?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you also. I know we have a number of volunteers that put up the markers, the crosses for Veterans Day and Memorial Day, and appreciate the police being there on the Sunday, making sure that that goes safely. So thanks to your officers for that also.
Glad to assist. Absolutely.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, thank you.
All right, good evening, Mayor, members of council again. Happy to provide you all with a quick update on Providence, on everything going on with Parks and Rec. I'll start with Providence Park. The trail and the pier contractor has been selected. We should have the construction on those two projects beginning early to mid next month. We are going to explore other options on the restroom. The price came in very high, so we're looking at other options to make it more responsible. With the former Milton Country Club, we will have the bid advertised this week. So the renovation bid will be out, and sometime in June, we should be looking at those, what comes in. At the pool, it's opening this Saturday. And we are rather fully open again. We are going to encourage social distancing and sanitizing, but the previous capacities will be back in place. And we are keeping that occupancy counter in place that we had last summer as well. So, you know, any folks that are weary still, you'll be able to see how many folks are at the pool. Decide if you want to go or not. I also implemented on the city's website a live status of the lightning detection system. So it will show you, you know, if we're in a lightning delay at the pool, it'll show you that we're in a lightning delay, and it actually has the countdown on how much longer until the pool activities can resume. It's good stuff. Swim team is currently at the pool right now. They're practicing Monday through Friday, actually right now. Probably wrapped up now, so 7:30, but and that's going very well. And we have an ADA pool lift, portable pool lift that's being delivered as we speak. So my staff did a great job of procuring that and keeping an eye on when it's going to be coming. Spring activities are all wrapped up with the successful seasons and all the programs. We had some rain right at the end of the season that kind of hindered some of the baseball tournament and whatnot, but we got the seasons in. Spring surveys have been sent out, so I'll have some feedback. We just sent them late last week, so next time you hear from me, I'll have some survey results. Rolling into summer programming, we've got Camp Joyful Souls 2 weeks away. We got a full staff, and already at this point, all the weeks are between 88 and 100% filled. So that's good. Summer athletic and recreation programming. Hopewell Baseball is doing, they started this new program last summer. They call it the Sandlot League. It's just weekday games for recreational players, and it went well. So you know, it was an opportunity for those kids that kind of got COVID hit, and we canceled the season, so they wanted to do something in the summer, and it was successful. So they're doing it again this year, and they've got over a couple hundred kids playing in the summer. Rush Union, the adult soccer program, they start early June. Our summer camps, we've got youth basketball, STEAM camps, photography camps, music camps, dance camps. They're all full board this summer. And we're looking at some potential new programs too. Maybe some art and fitness by the fall. So stay tuned there. Cox Road. We are very close to having an RFP completed to see what we can get done on those fields, and tennis courts, and potentially additional parking where one of the buildings was. And lastly, Wall of Fame. Nominations are extended to the end of this month for the Wall of Fame, and we'll be gearing up for another November Wall of Fame ceremony. Any questions?
Questions, Rick?
Just a question, topic from in the past. I know we've had people come before us to talk about an all-inclusive playground. Have you heard anything more about that? Is there a status update?
I don't have much of an update at this time.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. They put me last, but I promise I'll be quick. All right, we're going to start with sustainability. So you want to start with that?
Yeah, they might be tired of hearing from me tonight. So this was under consent, but we just wanted to point out every year the Atlanta Regional Commission offers, it's called Sustainable Connections. It's a program where they place college students in municipalities to do sustainability work. So we have applied for one of those interns. There's no guarantee that we'll get them. It's fairly competitive. It will be an unpaid position, but it would be, the student would be getting school credit for it. So anyhow, y'all did approve that under consent, and we'll let you know if we are lucky enough to receive one. If we do get one, the plan is to have them help us do research on hopefully moving from Green Communities bronze level to silver. That would be the project. It's a whole year-long project that they would work on.
Yeah, let's hope we get lucky there, because they can really use some extra help there, and I think it's a nice program for them to work on. We're really trying to get our status up from silver to silver. Okay, CPAC, we had the draft plan open house last Thursday evening. It was pretty well viewed. A lot of folks came. We had a nice turnout. We showed a video recapping the draft plan. The video actually came out quite nice. It was really professionally done. We had the 8 character areas blown up on boards, and we're looking to put them into the lobby now because they came out real nice. A lot of great feedback on those visuals. Future land use map was there, and the short-term work programs. So the next step here would be we're going to be presenting the draft plan to council on June 21st. So we'll be in here with the full draft plan. The goal is to get everything out early so that everybody has a chance to read it, digest it. We're going to do an executive summary. So it helps everybody navigate through it. And then hopefully you can bring any questions you may have to that meeting so we could just answer questions at the meeting. Because it would be the draft plan presentation. On the building department front, where interviews are underway, we've been interviewing last week, and we have some interviews this week. And we're going through that cycle. So then the next time I present a staff update, I'm hoping to be able to tell everybody that we have some really good key members that are looking to join the city, and we're being, picky on who we're getting, of course, but we're really trying to vet everybody out and get the best we can. Might be a little bit of a gap there, depending on, because we're working this week. So even if we offer some folks this week, it might be a 2-week, but I'm going to manage that gap. So we'll be okay. I don't think we'll be falling behind. We've been working with all the real big, large key developers to make sure that we get everything that they need done this week or having a plan for next week. So I am starting to roll out like a small short-term plan just to make sure that transition's smooth. Keep everybody moving along. Let's see what's happening. Fire Station 42. We're working on doing the septic soil borings, infiltration testing on the adjoining property. Adjoining property owner came to us and said he may be willing to give us the land at no charge as an easement. And we said, okay, so we're going ahead and checking to see if the soil is even suitable for it. If it is, then it would save us because we wouldn't have to go all the way down the block to Bell Park. That'd be a big savings for the city. We already did the former Milton Country Club. Tom did that, and Providence Park. We have that one too. Okay, so we have 4 projects that we just wanted to show you tonight, kind of keep you up to date on what's going on in the department as far as projects. This one here is a large lot development. It's known as the Homestead. It's really the old former Trophy Club golf course. It's 190 acres total, and they came in with a large lot layout. So it's we recently have increased the number to an unlimited amount of large lots under the program. So I want to thank you all because this one then comes in and now we can actually utilize that. We have 32 estate lots. They're ranging from around 3.5 to 10 acres. The smaller ones are a little bit around the lake, so they're more internal. But lakefront is definitely a premium, so they're trying to get in as many as they can around the lake. But for the most part, I think they've done a really, really nice job in laying out the roads, being sensitive to the environment out there with creek crossings and such, making all the intersections have, one-way wise, which I think really looks good, and all the cul-de-sacs, instead of just circles, they made them into loops. And I really think that landscape island is going to be very beneficial. So the way it all looks, it really came out nice. Some of the out parcels that were also part of this sale, they, on the 1 6-acre lot, what they did was they sold the 1 3-acre in the back, and then the 3 acres in the front that fronts the road. The next door neighbor said, "Oh, I want to buy it." So he came in, and I believe he's purchasing that. So from the roadway, it'll look visually very pleasing. So that they're coming in with an entrance and fencing scheme, which I saw some preliminaries that look very nice, met the Milton standards. So this, I think, came out very nice. The next one is.
Bob, I have a comment.
Okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's just fantastic to see 190 acres that could have been, 100, something like that. That's a scary number. So that's what I think we've been all working so hard for. So that's another high five. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's really coming out nice. I think they actually have a video, and they're doing quite a really great job on the marketing campaign for it. It was a 2-minute video. I'm not going to show it tonight, but I saw it. They showed it to me. They've enhanced it since they've even shown it to me. They have Fuller doing the architecture. So the whole concept's really coming out quite nice. And if you want next month, I think if you like, I can show you. It's a 2-minute video. It really does show you the lots and the beautiful vistas that you're going to see. They're doing it more for marketing, but I think it'd be nice to share it. So if it's okay with you all, I'll show it to you next month.
And I'm going to just plug in here too and add in thanks to council for, promoting these large lot developments and whatnot, along with, staff taking it from there. But
Yeah,
kudos to council too.
yeah, it's a big council initiative. It's totally a council initiative, and then we started with just limiting the number of lots, and then we came back and said there's such a great demand, why limit them? So then council even lifted that up, and it's been working. This last month I showed you 3 that went to the larger lots, and people have been calling me up saying, "Bob, they're marketable, they're coming in, and they're really, really in demand." So, and we're working on some other large tracks in this size that potentially we can go to large lots too. And we're trying to work with those potential purchasers. So it's really been a win. It's working great. Now, I do want to thank the council because I think it's great for Milton. It's really been working, and it's totally on a voluntary basis. So it's really been working nicely. All right, this here is in Crabapple. They're calling it the Gateway. It's Milton Library is to the bottom of the page. So it's right across the street. It's that corner lot that's there. So last month I showed you John Gaston just to the left of that site. That's white. To the left is building another sister building to what he has now. So I showed you that last month. This one would then finish this corner. And the beauty of this is that the developer came in and has worked with us on something that would be appropriate for the corner. He called it the Gateway because I keep saying it's the gateway into Milton. And it's prominent, and I want it to look really nice, and I need a nice investment there. I really want it to have a nice impact when you first pull into Milton. The first building you're going to see. So he said, "Gee, Bob, I'm just going to name it the Gateway." But the beauty is that he's putting in underground parking. He's got 2 levels of structured parking. So, a few years ago, everybody came and said, "Geez, why isn't the city building structured parking?" And we did a full plan and came back and said, "We just can't afford it. We'd have to buy the land, purchase the property. We'd have to build the building and then maintain it for perpetuity." And then everybody said, "Well, is it really going to be something that people would utilize and just have big surface lots? Because nobody here is going to want structured parking." Well, I just did an inspection this morning of the structured parking garage that Orkin and Associates is building right across the street. The lower level is now open to the public, and the upper level, they're just holding off on because they have some tenant move in and outfitting, so he doesn't want to conflict with traffic. But it's structured, it's all buried behind the, internal to the buildings, so you don't really see it from the roadway. Then we have Beecham's over there is doing structured parking underneath his buildings. John Gaston came in last month and said he wants to build a sister building, and he's going to do structured parking as well. And now this building here, Dennis Powell's actually working on this, and he said, gee, Bob, the structured parking is the best alternative for me to utilize. And the nice part of this is that the upper level would just look like surface parking from the road from Mayfield. But then when you come in from the backside on the Charlotte Drive or Heritage, when you come in the back, then you'll be able to pull into the back. So I'm sort of using the same philosophy that I used for Orkin, which is two-tier, but no actual interconnection within the parking. So it works out really nice. I think this came out nice, and it's going to be a nice addition to finish this off. So that on the county corner, on the other side, are the two medical buildings that we have, and they just came in and secured their LDP the other day. So you'll start to see where the old Stonehouse is. You'll start to see activity occurring there. And we have two medical buildings. Initially, they came in just looking for one. And because of form-based code, they really had to build two. They built two separate buildings. They came out real nice. We had 2 or 3 different iterations through DRB to get them exactly the way we thought they should be. But the developer really stepped up, and it's a very prominent doctor. And I think it'd be a nice addition to Milton.
Bob, at one point, there was some discussion about trying to reincorporate some of the stonework from the old house that was there. Is that still part of the plan?
Absolutely. We're taking the old, first we documented it. We had drawings made. We took photos so that we'd have it for archives. Then they're going to dismantle, maintain the stone. And the new architecture incorporates all that stone into the new exteriors. So I think it'll have a nice historical content there, something to talk about. And it was a lot of work. We went through a couple of iterations to get that just right. This one here is right down the block. This is Crabapple First Baptist. So this is right across the street from the school. And on the picture on the left is what it looks like now. And we work with these, with the architectural group to come up with a new facade, which is more like a porch that comes out. It's 20 foot deep. And you can see the drawing on the left. It's going to be, it's going to have new facade. What you're seeing there on the left is actually like almost a 2-story, 3 arches, and it's going to be all made out of heavy timber, all wood to mimic City Hall. So you'll see all this real heavy structural timber. There'll be a steeple. We're putting a steeple on it, so we'll have our steeple here in downtown Crabapple. I think it looks very much like an old-time religious institution building. And so there'll be interior and exterior. The drawing you're seeing on the bottom is actually a drop-off in the back. They're going to have a covered drop-off so that they can have people coming and going without any rain issues. And then they're going to redo the signage. So on the left, you're seeing what that sign will look like from the roadway. So we're keeping that very much in the same architectural character as the rest of the signage of Milton. It's going to be wood timber and have the old sign with a nice little roof. And I think it's all blending. So we're really starting to anchor the placemaking of downtown Crabapple is the key here. We're really starting to make it look like it's solid. So in every little location, you're starting to see, I think there's a big dramatic difference between the left and the right photos. Really gonna look at. All right, this one here is in Crabapple 2. It's on Crabapple Road. It's the last one I'm going to feature tonight. This, if you remember, if you look at the top of this picture on the left, that's really the old Lee property that Ashton Woods came in and purchased from the Lees. This is actually, the Lees still own the site that runs down on the left where you see the barn. And then the site on the right side that's highlighted in yellow, somebody has come in to purchase with the hopes of also purchasing the Lee property. So what we did though is instead of just looking at it as individual lots, I'm trying to look at this in its totality. So what I did was I made them design the whole thing as if they own both, just so that we could see how this looks as when it's completed and developed fully. So right now you're seeing this one on the left, which has the same points of interconnectivity, just where they are. And then if you look at this one, the photo on the left, then shows how the whole build out would look if they acquire or the next person comes to buy the Lee property in the future. Either way, it would have parks, lots of green space, lots of pedestrian interconnectivity. You can see the trail plan. So I'm trying to get the trail plan to continue. So we'll have the trail plan go all the way through here and make the connection. So it's really, I think it's looking pretty nice. And the way it is, we went through many iterations to get this as well. Just wanted to kind of showcase these projects to you, to show you what we're really doing. We're still working on all the other ones like Deerfield and stuff that are coming in, but since we showcased those, I don't want to repeat anything, and I'll just wait for those to conclude. Okay. That's it. If anybody has any questions.
Any questions for Bob or Kevin?
Thanks.
Thanks, Bob. All right, nobody has anything else. I will open up for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you, guys.